Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. In these daily price change prediction videos, we bring you the latest news with respect to potential price rises and potential price falls. If you're looking to build up your essential team value, win your mini leagues and improve your overall rank, you are in the right place. Just a friendly reminder that when the games are on, normally at the weekend, but also midweek now, there's a lot of transfer activity happening and things can change very quickly. So do stay up to date with the predicted price changes yourselves by heading over to fantasyfootballfix.com or by downloading our free app and enabling push notifications. In today's video, we're going to take a brief look at the predicted price changes, of which there are not many. We're then going to take a look at some statistics for some specific players, and we're going to discuss players that you should be targeting if you've still got your wild card, and if not, players that you should be looking to bring in for the busy Christmas schedule we have ahead. Without further ado, let's jump into today's video. So guys, slightly different format today because there are barely any predicted price changes. In fact, at the time of recording, we only have one player that is actually predicted to change in price tonight. The reason for that is that there were so many players predicted that actually, rose in price last night and fell in price. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go through an update of yesterday, just in case you didn't see who fell in price, who went up in price. After that, we'll talk about today's price changes, and then we'll go on to some other stuff. So like I said, statistical comparisons, take a quick look at the fixtures as well, and then maybe have a little bit of chat about players that I'd have on my wildcard, or at least that we should be targeting for future weeks that we can try to start to get ahead of the template. Just whilst I'm talking, I'm going to tease you a little bit. Have a little guess who you think those two players are there. They're touch maps. I'll show you after we've discussed the predicted price rises for this evening and yesterday's, but just take a look. Who do you think those two players are on left and on the right? You can comment down below before you look if you want to guess. So, with respect to yesterday, you can head on to the Fantasy Football Fix website and do this for yourself, by the way, by heading to the recent price changes. There were so many price changes. With respect to price rises, we had a few players. Reguilon went up 0.1 million. Gundogan was another popular one. We had Maddison, Vardy, Gallagher, and it goes on as well. Price rises, this is, and Alonso as well. With respect to price falls, there were a few noticeable ones. Brian and Burmo went back down to 5.5. We had Welbeck and Malpai, but no one's really owning those Brentford forwards, I don't think. Outside that, Havertz did go down. Damari Gray went down. And that's pretty much it. Oh, and Antonio, of course, was a really, really big one. So lots and lots of price changes. So if you haven't yet seen who they were, you can head over to the Fantasy Football Fix website and do so. But that has led to there not being barely any predicted price changes for today. So the only player predicted to rise in price or fall in price tonight is Diogo Jota. And that would be his third price rise in very, very quick succession. He's already 7.8 million. He is predicted to go up to 7.9 million pound this evening. At the time of recording, he is not yet at 100% progress. He's at 96.1%. But he is rising at 1% per hour. So by this time this evening swings around, unless anything crazy happens in the games tonight, and of course I'm recording this before the games tonight, then I do think that it'll be quite a high likelihood that Jota will go up. Outside of that, the only player that's even remotely close is Teemu Pukki. Now, that's the reason that I've put him on the thumbnail as well. He's at 95.3%, so he's at roughly the same progress as Jota, but he's just not rising quite as quickly. He's rising at 0.3% per hour. So really, the only two at the moment, of course, like I said, if someone scores a hat-trick in the games tonight, it could change like that and they could end up rising in price, or if someone gets injured, they could end up falling. So do take into account the games tonight. But at the time of recording, it's Jota predicted to go up tonight, and Pukki is very, very close. So if you're interested in either of those, do keep an eye on them. Having said that, the first thing we're going to look at is these two players here. So if you did have a little guess, I'll now show you. The player furthest away from me, with lots of touches in that centre circle, is indeed Pukki. And the one to the right of him is Joshua King. Now, the reason for this is because Pukki is predicted to increase in price either tonight or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow, unless he gets a bit of a surge in transfer activity. I thought I'd have a comparison with someone of a very similar price in Joshua King, who's actually less than Pukki, and just have a bit of a discussion. Is Pukki worth jumping on? And obviously the fixtures are pretty decent for Pukki, but after the next two game weeks, as we'll discuss in the next section, Joshua King looks fantastic value as well. So just wanted to take a quick look at the stats. With respect to the touch maps, they both actually look pretty good. Neither of them get that many touches, but when they do, they tend to be in and around the box or take in kickoffs, as you can see, which is quite hilarious. But most of their touches are in and around the box. Joshua King does drop left and deep a little bit, whereas a lot of Teemu Pukki's deeper touches are quite central. But either way, both of them getting into the box quite a lot. Shots-wise, they've both had a very similar amount of shots, 27 to 25. If we take a look at the minutes, though, Joshua King has played significantly less minutes than Pukki. So that's pretty impressive that he's had almost the same amount of shots. But all of Pukki's pretty much are inside the box, apart from a couple just outside. But Joshua King's are as well. And you can see all of Joshua King's goals, which are the green ones, the green dots, they're all very, very central, very close to goal. He's a proper poacher. A couple of those have been pens as well, or at least one of those have been penalties. So really, they're both your classic poacher strikers, but that's really what you want. You're not getting extra points from taking touches outside the box and taking random long shots. You want your striker in the box scoring those goals. So really, really highly impressive from both of them. If you just scroll down all the way, as you know we do, look at the per 90 stats. This is pretty much the reason I wanted to show you this, in that I don't think Pukki's a bad option by any means. And with the fixtures being fairly decent and the fact that he is on penalties, he does look like he's starting to find a little bit of form. Obviously, Dean Smith might be getting the best out of him. I still think Joshua King is the one to go for. Goals per 90 is relatively similar. Josh King does come out on top. Expected goals, almost double for Joshua King at 0.32 per 90. Which isn't bad for Pukki for 5.8 mil, but Joshua King's is 0.63 per 90. Joshua King's stats, this is the reason I wanted to include him here, are absolutely elite. They're brilliant, brilliant statistics, and you should really be keeping your eye on Josh King. The next fixture or two, not particularly easy, but after that, from about Game Week 17, Game Week 18 onwards, Josh King is probably going to be in my team, and I think you should definitely be considering him in your teams as well, especially the fact that Dennis is probably going to AFCON. Joshua King is on penalties. Even with João Pedro coming back, I do think that King will play the majority of minutes. Shots, Joshua King is taking slightly more, but Pukki's still taking 2 shots per 90, which is pretty decent. Shots on target, again, King does come out on top. Shots in the box, King comes out on top. But for these three here, they're taking roughly the same amount of shots per 90. Assist-wise, Pukki is not a particularly creative player. You can see his expected assist is 0.03, whereas Josh King not only has 0.63 expected goals, but he has 0.22 expected assists as well. That puts his expected goal involvement at 0.85. Highly impressive. Even when you take away the penalties, his XG is still pretty decent. Attempted assist is over triple what Pukki's is. Big chances created over 6 times the amount, or just under 6 times the amount of Joshua King. And crosses, pretty irrelevant, but he is even taking more crosses than Pukki. So what I would say is there has been a dramatic improvement in Teemu Pukki's stats. So if you've been keeping an eye on him, his stats all season have been dreadful. Under Dean Smith, there has been a definite improvement. And even just before Dean Smith joined, Pukki had definitely been demonstrating some better underlying stats. But Josh King is definitely the budget striker to keep your eye on. If you don't already have him and you're looking to bring someone in for the long term, I really, really do I really do like the look of Joshua King. We're going to do in the next section. We're going to take a quick look at fixtures, and then we'll take a look at potential wildcard draft, just so that you can see the sort of players that I would be targeting for the upcoming period. So guys, what I'm doing here is I'm taking a look at the fixtures from game week 17 to game week 22, organised by attacking difficulty. So the teams at the top have the best fixtures from an attacking perspective, and the teams at the bottom have the worst fixtures from an attacking perspective. You might say, why on earth are you taking a look from game week 17? It's game week 15 next week. I genuinely do this quite a lot, and the reason for that is I try to get ahead of the curve sometimes with my transfers. Now, I'm not saying you should bring someone in with terrible fixtures in the next week just to target future weeks, but what you can do is start to look at, well, in future weeks, who might I want? And if so, and I've got a free transfer and I don't mind benching that player, or I can get away with rotating them in the next couple of weeks, who might I want to bring in? And the reason I say stuff like that is because teams like Everton and West Ham, from around game week 18, 19 onwards, they have got such nice fixtures. And therefore, if you're looking to bring in players, and you can, like I said, get away with benching them in game week 16, 15, 16, 17, or at least rotating them in a couple of those, it might be worth targeting them now, rather than wasting a transfer to bring in someone short term and then wasting another transfer to take them out and bring in the player in game week 18. There's different ways to play the game, but I definitely think it's worth doing. So if we look for this Christmas period in a couple of weeks, who are we going to want to be jumping on? Like I said, Everton and West Ham are top of the list. So if Calvert-Lewin is back, that might be an absolutely brilliant transfer. I'm definitely got my eye on him, because if I was wildcarding now, I'd definitely have at least one mid-price striker, because I do think that the next template might be mid-price strikers. Watkins, Wilson, Antonio's fixtures, like we just said, with West Ham's coming good. If Bamford's back, Calvert-Lewin, I do think that there will be a switch back, like there was at the start of the season, to those mid-price strikers. So keep an eye on Calvert-Lewin, definitely, for when he's back. Like I said, West Ham as well. So if you've got Antonio, I think I would be tempted to hold if you haven't already sold him. And if you have sold him, he looks like he's going to continue to drop in price because people are still selling him. Then you can bring him in at 7.9, maybe 7.8 million, which would be absolutely amazing for one of the best players in the league with respect to underlying statistics. Bowen is another one that is highly on my list. We're going to look at Bowen in the next section because he would definitely be in my wildcard draft. And I think in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I will be bringing Bowen into my midfield. Liverpool obviously have amazing fixtures, which shows why Jota is increasing in price, and shows why really I do think that Trent, Salah and Jota need to be in your teams. You're not going to get many points from them because everyone owns them, but I just think over this upcoming period with the fixtures that they've got, they're absolutely fantastic owns. Southampton have decent fixtures. from an attacking perspective. So if you own an Adam Armstrong and you haven't already sold him, you might just want to hang on. Or you might want to go for Broja from like a cheaper striker spot. So if you want to upgrade from a 4.5 to like a 5 million, 5.2 million, you could go for someone like Broja. Outside of that, Manchester United fixtures do turn for the better. We've known that for a while. So if you want to jump on the likes of Sancho, who I think will be nailed under Rangnick, potentially even like a Luke Shaw or a Maguire. Varane looks like he might be dropping in price soon as well. So if you think he's going to start to gain fitness again and be in the starting 11, which he really should, there could be a few good options for Manchester United. Watford there as well. So as I said, Joshua King could be a fantastic option, and I definitely would have him in my wildcard draft if I was making one now. Outside of that, if we just scroll down to the teams with difficult fixtures from an attacking perspective, over from game week 17 to 22, Chelsea is there. So if you do own someone like a Havertz, potentially look to sell him onto like a Jota or a Foden or a Bernardo Silva or Gundogan. Wolves there as well. So again, if you own a Jimenez, you might want to make the switch from Jimenez to a Josh King or an Antonio or Calvert-Lewin if he is fit in a few weeks. Newcastle there as well. So maybe now's the time to jump off of Wilson and St. Maximan. So as you can see here, this is what I do. Not only take a look at the fixtures, but I jump on here and look a few weeks ahead because I can start to anticipate now. I'm going to want a West Ham player coming up for Norwich, Southampton, Watford, Palace, Leeds. That's a great run. I don't mind necessarily looking at Calvert-Lewin or hanging on to an Armstrong if I hadn't already sold him. And like I said, Watford with King's fixtures, I'm definitely considering bringing him in a few weeks as well. So these are the fixtures coming up. I'm going to now jump ahead and look at a wildcard draft. Again, if you're not on wildcard, it doesn't matter because it just shows you the sort of players that I will be looking to bring in ahead of the tasty upcoming fixtures. So guys, over on the assistant manager feature of the squad optimization page on Fantasy Football Fix, I've been having a little bit of a play around with a wildcard draft, and this is roughly what I would be aiming to have over the coming weeks. Now, I'm not saying that this team would look amazing for this week. In fact, it's got Calvert-Lewin who's injured, Antonio against Chelsea, and King against City. So I'm not saying specifically for game week 15. But if I'm thinking by around sort of game week 16, 17, 18, what sort of team structure would I want? Which sort of players am I looking at having? This would be roughly in line with what I would want. It has 2.8 million in the bank. The reason for that is that it might be that you want to get Antonio up to like a Lukaku. You'd still have to make another sacrifice. But I've left that there in case you want to go for a 2 premium formation. Now, what I would say is at the moment, I don't really see a desire or necessity to captain anyone outside of Salah for the foreseeable future with the fixtures they've got coming up. And if you do want to, you still have the likes of Cancelo, Alonso, Trent and James that you could captain potentially. Even like an Antonio, I wouldn't mind captaining against someone like a Burnley if you wanted to. So you do have options there. The only issue I would find with this is when Salah goes to AFCON, if he does, if COVID permits and that goes ahead, you might then want to switch either Salah out or you might need to switch to a 2 premium formation so that you've got other premiums to captain. But for the time being, I don't see the necessity to captain any other premiums, in which case, do you need any other premiums in your team? I don't think so. And like I said, I think the new template will be those mid-price strikers. I really think Antonio, Calvert-Lewin, Watkins, the likes of those players will be in really, really high demand come around December, potentially January, February. So this is the general sort of team that I will be looking at achieving over the coming weeks. And it's got a few players in there that I'm really, really desperate to bring in. I obviously brought in Jota this week, if you follow me on my channel and social media. Alonso is another one that I'm desperate to bring in. But I know that the back four is very highly owned, but they're highly owned for a reason. And Cancelo in particular has got great fixtures coming up. The fixtures aren't terrible for Alonso and James. You can see West Ham, Leeds and Everton in the next 3. And they've just got such high attacking threat. Trent is almost a must in my opinion. Gundogan is another player I really want. There are rumours that he's rested tonight. I obviously don't know that at the time of recording this, but I think he will play the majority of the minutes. Even when De Bruyne is back, he is still a bit of a threat. His numbers do drop off slightly, but I still think he's a great option. You could even go for someone like Bernardo Silva if you want that kind of sort of, do you want to be assured that they start every week, especially in the busy period? Obviously, Bernardo Silva won't start every week either, but it'll probably start most minutes in that City midfield. And then, like I said, Antonio and Calvert-Lewin are definitely on my mind at the moment. Probably not in this week, maybe not even the week after. But around game week 17 onwards, I do think that I'm going to want at least one of those, potentially both. And like I said, King's stats are so good. The fixtures are pretty good for Watford coming up. Ranieri seems to be getting the best out of that Watford team. So I've got a strong opinion that King will continue to do really well. And the fact that he's on penalties as well only adds to his potential threat. The reason I also like this is that the bench is pretty solid. And that's a mistake that I've made recently with the busy period coming up, with COVID, with injuries, with rotations, with games coming thick and fast. You're going to want a fairly strong bench. And in this one, you've got Bowen first sub every week, or you could potentially bring him in for one of King or potentially if Gundogan misses out, you've got Alonso and James. If they've got a tricky fixture, you might only want to play one. So you've got Bowen there either to stay first sub every week or to rotate with King and then one of the defenders. You've then got Mark Guehi, who is the Crystal Palace centre-back. He's an absolute bonus point monster. He scored 2 goals in 2 games. I've been very keen on him for a while. Crystal Palace have really good defensive data at the moment, but that could be any £4.5 million defender. You've even got a little bit of money in the bank if you want to go up to like a £5 million. You could bring in Luke Shaw. That could be a great option. Luke Shaw, for I think he's 5.1 million now, could be in there to rotate as well with King and Bowen. And then I've got Gilmore there, who's on all of the set pieces for Norwich, and they've got decent fixtures as well coming up. So you can see you can build an amazing squad, and I do think that the way I am going to start to lean, unless I see clear evidence that I want someone like Bruno, Ronaldo or Lukaku, I might start to switch to a 1 premium draft for the time being, because I just don't see the necessity, like I said, to go outside of Salah for the time being. And whilst that is the case, whilst Salah is a sort of a permanent captain for all of us, I don't think you need other premiums. And I think someone like Antonio could get very close to matching Lukaku, Ronaldo and Kane. So that's the sort of direction I would be going. I haven't given this hours of thought, but there's some of the players I like. Bowen and King are 2 players in particular I've really got my eye on for the upcoming fixtures. But I think we're probably 1 or 2 game weeks early. Because as you can see, Man City next week for King and then Chelsea next week for West Ham. So maybe from around game week 16 onwards, I really like Bowen, I really like King. I like the Crystal Palace defenders, and I do like Gundogan, Jota and Alonso are 3 players that I think have really high upside for the next few weeks. Let me know down below, have you still got your wildcard? And if not, are you looking to bring in any of these players with your free transfers? This would be sort of my ideal squad from around game week 17, game week 18 onwards. So guys, there you have it. Bit of a different daily price change prediction video because there weren't many prices to predict tonight because there was so many price changes yesterday. But of course, after the games tonight, there will be a lot of transfer activity. So just head over to fantasyfootballfix.com or downloading the free app and enable push notifications so that you don't miss any surprise price changes tonight after the games. If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. As we always say, it helps support the channel so much and it's completely free for you guys to do. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.